The Apple Car is here. Well, almost. We are going to talk about the design, built-in FaceTime cameras, auto-revealing steering wheel, wireless charging, and many more interesting features. There are hundreds of Apple employees working on the upcoming vehicle that Apple refers to as Project Titan.
Mark, a collective wow came out of the newsroom when we saw this story cross here. I mean, this is a project that the company's been working on for a decade at this point. What do we know about Apple's electric car plans?
Yeah, so Apple this morning officially canceled work on a self-driving electric car.
Apple is reportedly ditching its decade-old effort to build an electric vehicle. That's according to Bloomberg.
Just as we go, reports from Bloomberg this afternoon suggest that Apple has shelved its long-held ambition to become an electric car maker, just like Elon Musk.
Wow, it's finally happened. After many billions of dollars and 2,000 people working hard on the Apple Car project, the Apple Car project is dead. Yes, Tesla has officially killed the Apple Car.
Elon Musk knows everything that's going on inside all these tech companies, right? He's connected with everybody that's everybody. Maybe him lowering the price over the past 18 months, maybe that was also a ploy to basically say, Apple, you're not going to stand a chance here. Maybe that was bigger. A lot of people think like, oh, he was just cutting price. He's just been cutting price to move volume. Well, if you look at the math around it, it hasn't really helped nearly as much move volume. It just hasn't. Maybe a little bit here and there, but it hasn't really added up. So maybe his price cuts here, maybe this was to basically eliminate Apple and say, you want to come into this market, you better be ready to just have, insanely low margins because you're not going to produce better margins than us. And you're going to have to be in just a very tough place in terms of your margins for years. So maybe this was, maybe that's a little conspiracy theory out there that this last 18 months of lowering price, Apple said, we can't freaking do this.
The news site suggests that Apple Car, the project that Apple has had for around 10 years, will be abandoned. This was after it was first reported that the phone and computer leader was working on it. It's thought that billions of dollars have already been spent on the project, and these are supposed to be some of the prototypes. Though the project, which is known as Titan, has never been publicly acknowledged by Apple, it is thought around 2,000 people are currently working on it. These are expected to be transferred to Apple's artificial intelligence development team, where there is said to be more opportunity and potentially more money for Apple. The sales of electric vehicle, they've been flagging in the US of late, which could have triggered this decision. Tesla has warned about its sales growth. Ford and GM have both postponed expansion plans. Reports suggest the vehicle Apple was working on had no steering wheel, no pedals, and was completely autonomous. But now we may never know, as the plug is pulled on the electric vehicle before it was ever seen.
BYD is a great company, just like Toyota is a fantastic company. Now, I don't expect BYDs to be sold in America anytime soon, but what Tesla has done by dropping the prices of EVs to make sure they can essentially flood the market with their mass production vehicles is squeezed out the competition. Tesla has point blank told Rivian, you will not be profitable. Lucid, you will not be profitable. Any GM, Ford, Volkswagen, Mercedes, look at all of them. They're all scaling back EV production. Why? Because Tesla is willing to drop prices until the competition is dead, squeeze their margin down to where they're still cranking out massive cash flow, delicious cash flow coming out of this company. But what ends up happening? Your competition gets squeezed out. Is that bad for Tesla? Well, in the short term, it's not great because your margin gets hit. But wait a minute, what do we still have here? We still have operating cash flow of $13 billion at the company.
It once again shows that you cannot compete with Tesla on the tech side. Company after company after company are realizing you can't keep up with Tesla. You can't do it. Rivian is realizing it. Lucid has realized it, right? NIO's realized it. Apple's now realizing it, and there's a lot of other companies that wanted to compete with Tesla, and they realized they just don't have the teams. One of the things I said that's always a huge competitive advantage for Tesla is they got the best engineer. Man, they are so freaking the highest tier, and you can't compete with these guys. And so even Apple's now realizing that, and so another huge win now takes one less potential competitive threat right out of the market. China is ridiculously competitive. The United States market, no one wants an EV unless it's a Tesla, right? People want a Tesla. They don't want an EV. If they want an EV, you would see all these other auto manufacturers putting up phenomenal numbers, right? And look at everybody else that produces EVs. Their numbers are horrible. Rivian's guidance was pathetic. Lucid's guidance beyond pathetic. 9,000 units? For all of 2024, Tesla produces they'll probably produce about 6,000 units a day. And Lucid's talking about 9,000 total. And then you look at what Ford's done and how much they've had to cut price. You look at what GM's at. It's clear you can't compete with Tesla. And I think even Apple and Tim Cook realize you can't compete with these guys. And so me as a Tesla shareholder, I'm nothing but pleased by this news overall.
Something as complicated as an automobile is just not where Apple needs to go. For 2 words, profit margin. Apple's profit margin is about 26%. That's mostly, we know what their devices are, but really that's a lot of intellectual property and a lot of software. That's the business that you want to be in these days. So profit margins for comparison. So Apple's at 26. That's awesome. Tesla is only at 16% profit margin. Toyota, probably the best run car company in the world, is 10% profit margin. Then GM and Ford are in the single digits. And it's just a complicated business. It's a cyclical business. There's a ton that can go wrong. Even Elon Musk at some point during the last decade, when they were struggling just to make a profit, he said, wow, manufacturing is really hard.
Let's consider what Apple is. Apple is a designer and an ecosystem provider. You're locked into the ecosystem that is Apple iPhone, Apple Watch, Apple iPad, MacBooks, Vision Pro, Virtual, you name it. You're locked into an ecosystem in which Apple can sell you high margin devices, cases, accessories, and of course, service suites, which are even higher margin. Apple is a business that is driven by high margin. One of the reasons people argue is that it is a pricing power company. They're able to sell you virtual reality headsets for 3.5 times what Facebook will charge, and they'll do it because people perceive that Apple's quality is going to be the best. And so when people thought Apple was going to get into automotive manufacturing and design, people thought, okay, maybe we'll have a quality American-based competitor to the Mercedes, the EVs from Volkswagen, or even the EVs from Tesla, and one that will not only be delivered with quality and precision, but margin.